Friends, over the past couple of months, we've been giving testimonies. And one of the things that I have found helpful as I have taught people to give their testimonies is talk about three things: BC, MC, and SC. BC is your time before Christ. MC is how you met Christ. And SC is what your life has been like since Christ. So if you can remember that as you're thinking through your testimony, BC, MC, SC. And today I get to share with you my BC, my MC, and my SC. Now, I will be honest with you, there wasn't a whole lot of time in my BC life. And the strange part about that is I grew up in a household where my parents acknowledged that there was a God, but they did not submit to that God. They thought they did, but they didn't. And I remember my father, he really got uncomfortable about anything that had to do with church. But one thing he did, and this was God's grace in bringing me to the gospel, was my dad would say, "Son, I don't want to go to church, but I'll take you if you want to go." So at a very early age, 4, 5, 6, he took me to this church. I don't even remember what denomination it was. I don't remember the name of the church. I just remember they preached the gospel. And all of these circumstances, both my dad not acknowledging God and allowing me to go to church, was instrumental in me coming to the Lord. As they took me to Sunday school and church, I heard the gospel for the very first time. Now, you might be asking, how does a kid from a family whose parents don't do anything like God or anything like that, how does that person come to know the Lord? It's the same as everybody else. I came to know the Lord because God was gracious to me. You see, my parents were from the South. And that may not mean anything to y'all, but if you knew my parents, they had a certain view of the relationship between kids and parents and kids. One of the things that they had was kids are to be seen but not heard. But the main thing that brought me to the gospel, and I bet you didn't know the gospel can be preached by unbelievers, because my parents preached it to me, was they did not believe in sparing the rod. They were very, very certain that one thing was not going to happen. The old King James, spare the rod, spoil the child. One thing they were very certain was that their child was not going to be spoiled. I received, at the hands of my mother, mostly my mother, a lot of discipline. If you are from the South or raised by parents from the South, you generally have to go pick your own switch. I became a connoisseur of fine switches. But here's how that led me to Jesus. And it led me in 3 different ways. This is my meeting Christ. You see, first I knew from my experience that I did plenty of wrong things. I was getting paddled all the time. And Romans 3:23 tells us this. It states that all of us sin and fall short of the glory of God. As I knew that I did lots of wrong things, I knew that there was a standard, and I was continually falling short of that standard. The second thing it was easy for me to see was about the gospel from my home life is when I disobeyed my parents, when I broke a rule, the last people I wanted to be around were my parents. If you stole a cookie and you still got the crumbs on your lips, the last thing you want to be around is the parents who's going to see the crumbs. And so I knew from that part of my experience with my unbelieving parents that when I sin, there is a break in the relationship. I don't want to be around it. And I do the best that I can to hide the wrong things that I do. You see, as this applies to the gospel of Jesus Christ, I could easily see how the wrong things I did, the disobedience, the rebellion against God, would cause me to be at odds with God. And the third thing that my home life taught me about the gospel, that when I was wrong, and when a wrong was done and punishment follows, because I did wrong things, I deserved that punishment. And I could see that my disobedience to God, my rebellion to God, was just like my disobedience and my rebellion to my parents. I not only deserved punishment, but I was certain I would receive it. Now, when I went to that church as a little kid, and they preached Jesus hanging on the cross for my sins, it wasn't hard for a little guy of 4 or 5 or 6. It wasn't hard for me to see that Jesus took my spanking, that I deserved that spanking, but Jesus took it. And it was only by his gracious mercy and love for me that he took it. And so I turned my life over to Christ at a very young age. I probably didn't have all of the right words. I probably didn't have all of the right parts of the story. But I knew this: I sinned against God, and Jesus died for my sins. And if I would by faith receive him, he would save me. Now, since I have trusted Jesus Christ, I'm probably like most of you in the room. If you take a look at the chart, my little progress in becoming more and more like Jesus, it's not a straight diagonal line. It's kind of up here, down here, up, down, kind of like this. But what I can say is, over the past 50 plus years, God has remained faithful. He has remained faithful to me, to meet me where my sin caused me to need mercy and grace at that moment. And since I've met Christ, the one thing I don't want you to hear is that my life has been a bed of roses. Friends, my life has had some troubled times. But here's what I know. During those times, God has been faithful to be with me. He has been faithful to make known his steadfast love. And he has walked with me. He's been faithful to bring me back when I strayed. And friends, I am a former child converted by God's grace and his mercy because Jesus took my spanking. And now I don't have to fear the punishment anymore because it is finished.